Spain plays host to the 5th round of the 2013 FIA GT Series. We're here at the Navarra circuit, just south of Pamplona, for the penultimate round of the championship. But before we get underway, let's look back at the last round. At the Slovakia ring, Stefan Ortelli from second on the grid jumped the start, which later gave him a drive-through penalty, but there was chaos at the start of the race. Alan Day, race winner in Zandvoort, was pushed out into the gravel trap. Also in trouble was Sebastian Loeb. He got squeezed going into the first corner, ended up in a sandwich, which brought race-ending damage to his McLaren. Alan Day, a little winded, but nothing too severe. The safety car came out in order to clear up the wreckage, and when it came in, it was nearly time for the pit stop windows. Andy Zuber coming in to hand over to Mike Parisi, which got them out in a net second place. That place was soon taken, though, by Sergio Jimenez, forcing his way past up into second place. The race leader, though, was Andreas Simonsen. He got out of the pits, happy with his work, to hand over to Sergei Afanasiev. The battle was now all about second place. First of all, the two Audis sliced past Mike Parisi. The car's now in the hands of René Rast and Frank Stippler. They moved up into third and fourth places. The BMW, their next target. Coming into turns 7 and 8, they managed to glide past the Team Brazil car and move up into second and third places respectively. It was the best showing from the BMW Team Brazil squad all season, and they managed to go on to score a solid 5th place. The battle for the final spot on the Pro-Am podium was hotting up. Alex Buncombe attacking Fabio Anidi coming down into the hairpin of turn 4. He managed to go right around the outside of the Ferrari. Laurens Vanthoor then started to come into the action, trying to get past his teammate. He soon passed Frank Stippler, wasn't close enough to get past René Rast, and as a result, it was Andreas Simonsen and Sergei Afanasiev who took the overall victory and the win in Pro-Am, with WRT in second, third and fourth. A fantastic performance, with Niki Mermanov and René Rast winning the Pro Cup, but the overall race win and Pro-Am going the way of Andreas Simonsen and Sergei Afanasiev. Everyone was nice and relaxed at the driver's photograph, but there's some serious business to go on this weekend as the championship battles continue. Andreas Simonsen and Sergei Afanasiev are currently leading the Pro-Am standings. They performed very strongly, winning the race overall last time out in Slovakia, and Simonsen is confident that form can continue.
For sure, the Grosser and the project car will be the main competition this week. There's only 8 points behind us. And I think this track suits the Lamborghini a bit more than the Mercedes. It's quite a heavy car, so struggle on these small corners on second and first gear. The team made a good job to find a good setup. Overall, I think we can do a good weekend.
Only a handful of points behind them is the Gottfried Racing Grasser Lamborghini of Harry Procek. Procek is joined by Gerhard Schwarzer this weekend, but despite that, he knows it's going to be tough to fight off the Mercedes.
We try to win it, yes, for sure, but I think our, especially HTP, is very, very strong. See on that weekend with Nova driver, with Ammermüller, they have strong new drivers, so we try our best. We will fight for the title, for sure.
Wolfgang Reip is also still in contention for the Pro-Am title. He'll be in the 32 RJN Nissan this weekend alongside Steve Doherty, and the Belgian is well aware of what he needs to do to stay in the championship hunt.
Well, this weekend it's simple. We need to finish at the best position we can. This time in FIA GT, on this track, on Navarra track, we feel quite good. The Mercedes are too much ahead and they are still very strong, so it will be very difficult to beat them. But the most important thing is to take pleasure and to be as fast as you can.
In the Pro Cup, it's only Alan Day who can stop the rise of the WRT Audis. He's in an HTP Mercedes this weekend alongside Stef Dusseldorp. But Day knows it's going to be a long shot if he's to overpower the Audis.
It's going to be really difficult, and to be honest, the Audi had a really quick pace through all the season and almost zero mistakes, so it's going to be a really tough job. I will again do my best. I hope for more winning, not only Zandvoort, and more podiums and good result here.
Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parent have had such bad luck this season, they haven't been able to capitalise on the pace their McLaren has shown. But this Navarra circuit has been known in the past to suit the MP412C.
Navarra normally is quite a good track for the McLaren. I know they opened the restrictor from the Audi, which was even the fastest before, so I think it's no chance.
Vita for One are making their series debut this weekend, with Karun Chanduk partnering Yalma Berman. Karun, having split from his Seyfarth Mercedes squad, is looking for better luck here with the BMW.
I wasn't particularly getting along with the Seyfarth guys. It wasn't just working for us. The results weren't what we wanted it to be. An opportunity came to join Michael and Vitaphone and get together with Yelmer, of course, who's got a lot of experience in the BMW. They're a great team, great bunch of guys, and already I'm getting along better with them than I had with the previous team. So, yeah, really looking forward to the next 2 rounds.
At the top of the Pro Cup, it's the number 11 WRT Audi of Laurence Vanthor and Stefan Ortelli. But hot on their heels is the 13 machine with Edvard Sandström and Frank Stippler. And Sandström knows it'll be tough to overhaul their teammates.
It's always the plan, but of course they are fast, and especially here, Ortelli he had done a lot of races here, and he knows the circuit, and he seems to have a very good ground speed. I think we each session find out a little bit here and there, and we're getting closer and closer, and we can still win the championship for sure. It's just to do good qualifying and race hard, and then we will see where we end up.
With 3 identical R8s gunning for the title, it's the drivers who will be feeling the pressure.
What a piece of work is a man.
What a piece of work is a man.
How noble in reason.
How noble in reason.
How infinite in faculty.
How infinite in faculty.
In form and moving, how express and admirable.
In form and moving, how express and admirable.
In action, how like an angel.
In action, how like an angel.
In apprehension, how like a god.
In apprehension, how like a god.
The beauty of the world.
The beauty of the world.
It's time for the qualifying race for the 5th round of the 2013 FIA GT Series. We're here in Spain on the penultimate leg of our tour around the world, and it's going to be a very entertaining race because we've just had some rain start to fall here at the Navarra circuit. You can see the clouds, they look pretty dark. The air temperature's about 17 degrees, track temperature 16 degrees, but John, the brollies are up.
Yes, we thought we'd seen the race. The end of the rain. We had a lot of rain here for qualifying, and overnight the track dried out. It was dry this morning for warm-up, but in the 20 or so minutes since that session ended, we've had clouds come over the racetrack, and it's more a drizzly rain than the kind of rain that we saw yesterday afternoon prior to qualifying.
Here's a look at the grid then. On pole position, it'll be Marc Basseng starting alongside Edvard Sandström on the front row. Oliver Jarvis making his FIA GT Series debut will be starting in 3rd place. Michael Ammermuller, great qualifying performance from him. He'll be in 5th place. 6th place BMW won't be there. Vanthor, championship leaders, only managed 7th position. Dusseldorp and Ordóñez starting in 9th and 10th position, but that Nissan will have to take a drive-through penalty for an engine change. Yalma Berman in 11th. Watch for him climbing up the order. Same can be true of Duncan Tappy in 13th position. Harry Prochik, 2nd in Pro-Am Championship, will start in 15th place on the grid. Wolfgang Reip ahead of Mike Parisi, who had a terrible qualifying session. He's looking forward to flying through at the start of the race with Philippe Sledecka and Martin Matska, another newcomer to the series, at the back of the grid. But through the final corner they come on the green flag lap. We're about to get racing in the 5th round of the championship. It's the qualifying race about to start here at Navarra. Marc Basseng on pole in the Lamborghini, Sandström 2nd in the Audi as the lights go green. It's a good start from Alvaro Parent, pulling towards the outside on the run down to the first corner. Parent's going to take the lead here. Fantastic start from the Portuguese driver. Basseng gets shuffled back. A phenomenal start from Lucas Ordóñez. He's up into 3rd position, but he's got onto the slick AstroTurf on the outside and can't get it slowed down. Look how cramped it is going into turn 3. Ordóñez off the road again, but somehow he has gone from 10th to 3rd by the time they get to the first corner. Everyone else busying their way through the left-hand kink as the second McLaren runs wide.
Yeah, Mike Crazy, the way he got trapped with traffic around him and nowhere to get back onto the racetrack. But what a start from that Nissan in third place. An absolute screamer up the outside and around the outside of turn one and slotted that Nissan into position. And, well, you can't do better than that.
There's been a huge shuffle around. Stefan Ortelli looking on, looking quite concerned. Where is his Audi? Oh, there's 4, 5, 6 abreast coming down the back straight there. Michele Rugolo is up into 4th place. It's 5th place for Steph Duffeldorp. 6th position, possibly now 5th, as Laurens Vanthoor tries to go past Steph Dusseldorp and does get up into 5th place. Then we've got Harry Procek and a huge gaggle of cars further back. What on earth? Look at this, Matthias Stumpf making a move on Jelmer Berman now. Stumpf in the white Lamborghini going past the BMW. What happened to our pole sitter Marc Basseng? He's dropped down the order so rapidly, I can't even see him coming through there. Oh, and there's a spin.
That's the McLaren. Von Ryan McLaren, Duncan Tappy has been tapped and spun around, and he's going to have to wait for the whole field to get through. He may well have had the engine that was coming through turn 13. Turn 12. So we now the field beginning to string out, but certainly where did Marc Basseng get to? He was sort of swamped by the entire field on the run up to turn one.
He and Oliver Jarvis must have had a moment, because those two are now running right at the back of the pack. Across the line they come at the end of lap 1. Alvaro Parent leads by 1.3 seconds. Sandstrom is 2nd. Lucas Ordóñez is 3rd. 4th is Michele Rugolo. 5th is Laurens Vanthoor. 6th, Steph Dusseldorp. And yes, Jarvis coming across the line 19th. Basseng coming across the line in 18th place. So our 1st and 3rd place starters now running in 18th and 19th places respectively.
It certainly looked very congested when the cars were coming out of turn 8. That's the corner that leads on to what we call the back straight. Whether that was the area where the contact or whatever took place occurred. And we maybe got a little opportunity to see back on that opening lap, certainly into turn 1. Everybody except Lucas Ordóñez appeared to be fairly cautious. He just charged up the outside.
Oh no, Steph Dusseldorp has been spun round by Matthias Stumpf, coming into the right-hander of turn 8 that leads out onto the back straight, and that HDP Mercedes is parked there. He gets going again, but that's a real shame for their championship challenge. Okay, so we're hearing that the 24 Lamborghini of Basseng and Oliver Jarvis are both on dry weather tyres. So that explains it. Basseng, we think, was on dry weather tyres, apparently, according to our sources. There's the start of the race. Look on the right-hand side, we've got Lucas Ordóñez in that big white Nissan getting a rocketing start. Everyone else struggling as they come into the first corner. Well, Parent's got the job done.
The reason why the cars on the left-hand side of the grid got the advantage is if that was the case, that we saw the Lamborghini at Basseng starting on those slick tyres, then everybody on the right-hand side was going to be backed up, because Basseng could not take the risk of trying to get through turn 1 and then into turn 2 and 3, simply because there was no grip. And it was the people on the left-hand side, and we see Alvaro Parent doing a brilliant job of just going down the left-hand side, staying wide in turn 1. And look at that. Well, there's a bit of smile. You don't often get a smile from Sebastian Loeb, but there we see it. But everybody now who is on that wet tyre, looking for the damp or the wettest part of the racetrack, they want to try, if possible, to string out their race until that pit lane opens, and will be another 15 or so minutes, rather than having to come in and go on to slicks and then having to come back in again and do the driver change.
Now, the handy thing having Basseng and Jarvis out there on the circuit is that
and Rugolo gets onto the...
Oh, yeah.
He just ran the curbing on the outside of turn 2, and consequently an easy overtake for Laurens Vanthoor. That's just what you want, a driver to make that pass available to you.
As the battle for the Pro-Am lead continues and Procek gets out of shape, and that means it's an open gap up the inside, and Matthias Stumpf moves through. Procek just got out of shape through the middle part of turn 5, and Matthias Stumpf in the ACL by Road Drive Lamborghini is now up into the lead of Pro-Am and into 6th place overall. 5 minutes to go before the pit stop window. Vincent Voss watching on, Frank Stippler behind.
And I'll tell you, the gamble of starting on slicks has not paid off, because Marc Basseng has finally got into a 1:57. That's still 7.5 seconds behind the pace of the lead car, Alvaro Parent. The judgment, bearing in mind ambient temperature, track temperature, the nature of the circuit, bad decision.
We've just seen Oliver Jarvis continuing to be lapped, this time by Berman, Rugolo and Stumpf. And it is Michele Rugolo and Matej Stumpf doing battle here over 5th place. Stumpf looks up the inside in the Lamborghini and slides through.
And just watching Stumpf, he's done 2 good passes. Once there we saw on Rugolo, and it was coming into turn 13. He's got through, and Rugolo thinks he might have a chance to come back. He's trying to down the outside, get the better exit off turn 15. But Stumpf did a good job. He did it in Harry Project. He forced the error there. As we go back to this battle now for 2nd place, and Team Boss Vincent Vos, well, the mind, I'm sure, is wondering what's going to go on.
And it's Van Thor who is leading the championship, and he's going to try and go around the outside at turn 1. Laurence Van Thor, can he get past into 2nd place? He can. What a phenomenal move, but Sandstrom still has the inside line coming into 3 and holds the place. But what a daring attempt from Van Thor.
And what good, look at Vincent Vos pulling his hair out. Oh, sorry, Vincent, you don't have any to pull out. Maybe that's the reason. Look, Van Thor back behind Edvard Sandstrom, battling into turn 5. And I mean, these 2 drivers are going at it. Again, I mean, there's no paint being swapped at the minute, but this is a real drag it out knuckle fight between the 2 Audi drivers. Oh, damage.
And off has gone Aman Ibrahim in the BMW, and he's on the circuit. Will this bring out the safety car? Potentially. We'll have to wait and see. He's lost that. Where is that? That's into the first corner.
Straight in. Whether he was in
turn 1.
He may have been involved in a battle, but he's not. He's topped and tailed the car. He's damaged the nose and the tail of it. So we'll hopefully maybe get a little glimpse of that. If we see this battle that's waging between Van Thor and Sandstrom, there is the BMW driver out of the car. He's going to be disappointed.
So it sounds as though most teams are making slicks ready in the pit lane. Here's the look from Van Thor. Almost a touch between them, but I think they got away with it. Still no contact between these 2. This is only the battle for 2nd place, by the way. Alvaro Parentis still out in the lead of this one. Here comes Van Thor up the inside into the final corner. Sandstrom sees it coming, swings wide, bounces over the curbs to try and get the grip back, and they're going to be absolutely wheel to wheel. These are our 1st and 2nd place men in the championship. Across the line they come. Van Thor has half a car length's advantage. There's yellow flags, so there's nothing Sandstrom can do.
Exactly, and this is up into turn 1. The BMW somewhere on the outside of the inside. We couldn't quite get a view of that. But Laurence Van Thor has worked very, very hard indeed, and he's got it all done into turn 15. Into
the pits they come. This is going to be an absolute pit stop race between the 2 factions at WRT.
So Eds Van Thor stops, and Otelli opens the door. Now Sundstrom stops, and Frank Stippler does the same thing. So a battle between there. We see Otelli getting into the car. We see Sundstrom helping Frank Stippler into the car. New sticker slicks going on. Best lap, last lap from, just trying to have a look and see what we've got.
Here comes
from Bassang.
And look, the 13 car's got back out in front. So it's Frank Stippler who's got back out in front of Stefan Otelli. So the positions swap around.
And we got Sebastian Loeb, just saw him literally going out of shot as the 2 Audis leave the pit lane. So the gap between 1st and 2nd has reduced during those pit stops. But we've seen a change of position in the pit lane between these 2 Audis. Frank Stippler, and Stefan Otelli runs way wide. And he needs to be careful. Those slick tyres on a wet track, especially sticker tyres, are going to be tricky until you get the film as a part of the releasing agent from the tyre. When it comes out of the tyre mould, gets rubbed off.
As we figured, everyone coming into the pits then at the last possible opportunity pretty much. And once they all come back through, we'll try and figure out exactly what has happened in there as far as the order is concerned and the Pro-Am standings as well. But there is our race leader, Sebastian Loeb.
Now, if he's on slick tyres, there is no better man in the field to drive a car in these. Now, why are the 2 Audis dropped back like that? There's a massive difference.
Well, no, but why was Frank Stippler pulling to the right-hand side?
Well, why is Otelli? What's wrong with that? Oh, the BMW.
Karun Chanduk. Karun Chanduk's gone off, I think, on the run down towards turn 8. And that's a bit of a moment for Chanduk as he recovers, only loses 2 positions, I should say.
Again, that's the danger of coming. These drivers have not driven, the ones that have taken over, who've been put onto a slick tyre on a track they've not driven on with these tyres, and it's a real handful. And Karun Chanduk getting caught out just into turn 8 and spinning it around, but luckily not having contact.
And there we just saw a change to the lead in Pro-Am. That 25 Gottfried Gratter racing Lamborghini has just got past Patrick Kuhner, so it's now Gerhard Torreza who's in the lead of Pro-Am. Now we've got battles going on with Andreas Simonsen and Cesar Campanico. These two doing battle at the top of the Pro-Am standings, with Harry Brocek on his way at the moment, finishing second in Pro-Am. So it's all kicking off. Andy Zuber has just set the fastest middle sector of anyone. Stippler is on wets, as is Sebastian Loeb, apparently, we're being told. So Loeb, out in the lead of the race, is on wet tyres. Okay, he's lapping slower at the moment because it's his first lap out on the track, as we see this battle continuing. A fantastic squabble going on. But that's the news I'm being given, is that Loeb and Stippler are on wet weather tyres.
Doesn't look like it by their times. They're doing 1:57s.
But we'll wait and see if those times improve. Let's focus on this on-track battle at the moment, though, because it's all frantically going on for the lead of Pro-Am. And it is now Cesar Campanico who has moved into the lead of the Pro-Am class in that 14 Audi.
Everybody who's on slicks is struggling in the middle 50s. Those are on wets are running in the low 50s, or even in the case of Sebastian Loeb, a 1:49.
Now, what have we got going on here? All sorts, by the looks of things. It's Attila Abreu at the head of this queue, and behind him is Alex Buncombe, and now in front of him is Alex Buncombe as he gets up the inside. This is all over 13th position, believe it or not. So it's 13th place for Buncombe, 14th place for Abreu, 15th place for Tappy in the McLaren, and 16th place now for Hubert Hoped in the Mercedes. Here comes Andreas Simonsen again then across the line. Is he going to be able to get past this time going into turn one? Looks to the outside to try and go around the outside of Campanico and pulls it off. Good stuff from Andreas Simonsen, the Swedish driver who won overall last time in Slovakia Ring. And here comes the battle for third place. Through goes Gerhard Torreza.
Yeah, I mean, just simply, he's got wet tyres, Ortelli's on the slicks, and even Ortelli's last lap of 1:55, nothing he can do about it.
So I think it's over for Ortelli. The slicks, even in the last 15 minutes, unless something miraculous happens, I don't think we're going to see the track dry in time.
Like luck, miracles don't happen. It was a bad call, that's all you can say. And Qatar goes down the inside, makes the pass on, well, trying to get back again, and he's on the inside. So Karun Chandrak, using all that experience from talking about being a racing driver and the experience of being one. So good race going on with these two BMWs. And this time, yeah, the Brazil car, well, side by side, I mean, at least they're not hitting each other.
As we now see Ortelli doing battle with Attila Abreu.
Oh, and look at the outside, the Mercedes coming into the...
And this is actually, Abreu is a backmarker here, being lapped, but Andreas Simonsen is now right up behind Stefan Ortelli and looking to take that fourth place away.
And he will do, because he again is somebody who's on the wet weather tyre. Ortelli's last lap actually was a 1:54, which is the quickest lap. Again, you can see the back of the car shimmying as it turned through the exit of 14, but Simonsen can get up the inside of the Mercedes. He's got the traction, and nothing Stefan Ortelli is able to do about it. We're on board here with Sebastian Loeb. I mean, could we see a shock finish for potentially second place? It would be unlikely.
Ortelli struggling so badly on those slick tyres. He's still lapping in the 1:55. Here comes Campanico into the final corner. Ortelli goes wide. That's going to allow Campanico the chance. It's not the final corner, my apologies, but it's still a sharp right-hander. Ortelli holds it in there just about, but then goes wide. This is the final corner. And here comes Andy Zuber. Watch for that McLaren.
Absolutely.
Takes the wide line in. He's going to slingshot out of there, and he's going to try and get past both of them on the start straight. Here we go then. Andy Zuber in the white McLaren. Past one Audi in an instant. Can he get past the other Audi by the time they get down to the first corner? This is the battle for third place in the Pro Cup. Not close enough just yet, but it's also the battle for fifth place overall, which means fifth place on the grid for the main race later on.
Thumbs up from Mike O'Greasy.
He's Irish today for some reason.
He could be Irish today, but look at this.
Here comes Shorley down into the left-hander. No, not close enough, but it's only a matter of time. Sebastian Loeb has come across the line, so this will be the final lap, or there'll be one more after. We'll wait for confirmation. Depends how long ago. But here comes Andy Zuber to the outside line now. Ortelli has the inside, but he doesn't have as much grip, which allows Zuber to drive right around the outside, gets on the AstroTurf, and that could allow Campanico back into the party, and it does. So Campanico slots back into the middle of these two. What a great fight for 5th position. Zuba's going to try and pull the same trick he did last time.
He's got the two Audis almost side by side, so the racetrack a lot narrower.
And now Campanico has the inside line on Ortelli coming down into turn 1. Zuba's tucked right in there. He's got past one of the Audis. Campanico struggling in a straight line, tries to sell the dummy to Ortelli, but not doing. Fantastic stuff. A little bit sideways for Andy Zuba. There's Andy Zuba's other half getting a little bit nervous. And here he comes up the inside. Job done for Andy Zuba. He moves up into 5th place. Absolute delight in the pit lane. And this has been a great performance because they started in 18th position on the grid. And now Ortelli's about to get assaulted by Cesar Campanico. Look at them touching each other all the way around. The look up the inside. Is there a bit of a touch? Oh, there might well have been, and now Duncan Tappy wants to get involved as well. The clock has ticked to 0, so this is the final lap of the race. Duncan Tappy, meanwhile, is unlapping himself from Stefan Ortelli. Fantastic stuff. Campanico now goes back past Tappy, who realises he's just going to get the blue flags if he stays in front. Now the final lap, I think, means Sebastian Loeb is onto his final lap, and therefore these guys have one more lap to do. So these guys are on their penultimate lap. There's the move from Campanico up the inside, pushes Ortelli out onto the AstroTurf, and that sees Ortelli drop down to 7th position now. What a disastrous race this has turned into for them. There's the Sebastian Loeb Racing pit wall. They've seen their car come home to win the qualifying race twice already this season. They're getting used to these victories, but they're yet to pick up anything in the main race. Will that change here at Navarra? A circuit that has been so strong historically for McLarens continues to be so. The checkered flag is out. Tyres were perfect, driving was perfect, a perfect race for Sebastian Loeb Racing. Loeb wins. He and Parent taking victory. 2nd place is going to be Frank Stippler. What a good performance from them, beating their main championship rivals. 3rd place across the line, Gerhard Tuareza. Fantastic performance from Tuareza and Procek. Here's a look at the results after the qualifying race. This will then be the grid for the main race coming up later. Sebastian Loeb Racing taking the win. Loeb and Parent in 1st position. Stippler and Sandstrom finishing in 2nd place. And a fantastic performance from Gerhard Tuareza and Harry Procek to finish in 3rd position and winning the Pro-Am class. Claudio Stanislav and Michele Rugolo finishing 8th overall, winning the Gentleman's Trophy. But look at that, championship leaders Ortelli and Van Thor only finishing in 7th position. Further down, we had the 35 Nissan. Despite serving a drive-through penalty, Bunker Mordonez managed to finish in 13th position. Mark Basseng and Stefan Racina, pole sitters, finished in 15th position. Meir Melnoff and Jarvis started 3rd on the grid. They finished in 18th place. Alan Day and Aman Ibrahim were retirements. But we can now hear from our race winner, Sebastian Loeb. He's in the pit lane with John Watson.
Sebastian, congratulations, 3rd qualifying race win.
Yeah, that's good, but never a race win, so hopefully this afternoon will be better than last time, but I'm happy with the performance of the car. It was some good strategy also from the team. We stayed all the race with wet tire, I think a lot, used some slicks sometime, and it was a mistake, so no, it was a great race for us. Alvaro took a great start like every time, and I could keep the lead.
Sebastian, today, were you a racing driver or are you still a rally driver in these conditions?
Maybe a bit of both. It's for sure, it's very slippery, and you have to control the slide a lot of time, but still it's different. It's racing, the car is different, it's a track, so more racing driver.
The rain has plagued us all weekend here in Spain, but the sun has come out ahead of the final race of the weekend, the main race in terms of the FIA GT Series for 2013. It's the 5th round of the season, the penultimate round of the season as well, and the championship can actually be wrapped up today, although that seems unlikely. Air temperature is now a lovely 22 degrees, track temperature's up to 21 degrees, so we're going to be getting involved with a proper race this afternoon, which should be very entertaining after a frantic wet-dry race earlier on. There's a few championships to be resolved this season. The man chasing in Pro-Am is Harry Procek. He's on the grid with John Watson.
Harry Procek, you're second in the Pro-Am Cup, only 6 points behind the Mercedes here. You've got a great opportunity to score big points.
Yeah, I hope we use this opportunity today. In the rain, qualifying race works really well from 15 to 3. We know how strong especially the HDP car is, and we try our best today.
So Gerhard Tweiser is going to start. Anything you're going to do special, or just basically the best you can?
I hope that Gerhard make his best job. He do it also in different other series. He's a young good one, and we try our best. We will see. I hope we can keep the speed like what we do in the rain. It's for us now a big surprise. We will see. Cross fingers.
Surprise us. Many thanks.
Very great to hear from Harry Procek. Gerhard Tweiser drove a superb race earlier on in the qualifying race to finish in 3rd position after starting 15th on the grid, and he's a young driver making his FIA GT Series debut. He's raced in FIA GT3 before, as well as the Lamborghini Super Trofeo as well, and he's had a very successful single-seater career. Finished 5th in the ADAC Formal Masters in 2010, where he was racing the likes of Richie Stanaway, Dominic Baumann, Lucas Wolf, Sven Muller, Maximilian Buch. He beat those latter drivers, so impressive young man is Gerhard Tweiser, and his form was certainly something to be reckoned with earlier on, and let's hope it will be again this afternoon. That's the battle for Pro-Am, but in Pro, it's Stefan Ortelli and Laurens Vanthoor leading the championship. Chasing them all the way is Frank Stippler and Edvard Sandström. We can hear from the Swede. He's with John.
Edvard Sandström, right tyre choice for the qualifying race. You've got a great opportunity to hunt down your teammates and get that 16-point disadvantage down to something into single figures.
Yeah, that's the target, right? If you want to win a championship, you have to start to catch up, and happily today the margin is a little bit closer again, and hopefully we can do a good main race now. So,
Edvard, there's a lot of work going around the front of your car, working on the discs, and is there a problem there, or is it just something that you want to check out?
It sounds like it was a serious problem in the warm-up lap here, so it's
serious.
Yeah, it's serious. I don't know what. I hope it will be fixed now, but it's not a very good sign. No,
it's not a good sign indeed. So what can you do off the line? Have you got the power just to get into turn 1 ahead of Sebastian Loeb and the McLaren?
If you looked on the first start, I did a pretty good start, but of course it's a little bit easier to be in the second row with the rolling start, because I have to follow the pole man a bit, and but I think the McLaren is maybe a little bit faster, but if you do a perfect start with Audi, you can maintain and have a good chance for sure.
Okay, well, let's hope you get your problems sorted out before this race goes green. Thank you.
Thank you.
So seemingly big problems for Audi. I just saw an Audi mechanic absolutely legging it down the pit lane to go back to the WRT garage to presumably get something. So serious problems going on at the front there. We think it's brake related, and well, you can see, what are they up to? Maybe changing the discs and the pads perhaps, something that they will be used to, having done so at the Spa 24-hour race and also at the Nurburgring 1,000-kilometre race just last weekend in the Blancpain Endurance Series. Normally brakes don't come under that much pressure in these shorter sprint races, so you can see Edvard Sandström very relaxed about it all, and the team have put the bodywork back on, so that's very interesting. But we can now hear from our pole-sitting car and our pole-sitting man, Sebastian Loeb.
Sebastian, dry track, pole position. You don't need anything else, do you?
No, I don't know. At the moment it's looking good, but we had some other pole positions since the start of the season where it went wrong, so we have to concentrate and take a good start.
You look after this car, bring it home safe, huh?
we will try. We'll try.
Amazingly, this is the 5th time that Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parente have started from pole position out of 10 races so far this season. A really astonishing strike rate for pole position, comfortably the most pole positions of anyone in the field, but in the Drivers' Championship they're down in 6th position, having never finished on the podium in a main race, but they have won a couple of qualifying races. There you can see concerns. This morning they won their 3rd qualifying race, but look at that, Vincent Voss on the left-hand side, the gentleman in the headset, he's the man having a look at the brakes, but it looks to me as though the problems are solved, and this is the post-mortem of the old brake system. That would be my prediction. Anyway, we'll wait and see. There's certainly the frantic activity appears to have stopped, and Edward Sandstrom, as he leaves the grid, gives a big sigh of relief as Sebastian Loeb gets strapped in, ready to get in the car. Unusual not to see him in the car at this moment in time. I would have thought he would have been in the car by now. Most of the other drivers are. As you can see, Frank Stippler starting in 2nd place on the grid. Now, Stefan Ortelli and Laurence Vanthor can win the championship today, as I said, but they have to win the race and hope that that Stippler and Sandstrom car finishes in 7th place or lower. That's the only way the title can be wrapped up today. No other result is good enough for the 11 Audi other than a victory. There you can see Gerhard Twerese, 3rd place on the grid in his Gottfried Grasser Racing Lamborghini. Impressive performance from them, no doubt about it, and it's the Pro-Am battle that is all going on the 2nd row of the grid, because there is the Pro-Am Championship leader, Andreas Simonsen at the wheel, Sergei Afanasyev snuggling up to him on the ledge there, and those two are leading the championship, but only by 6 points from Harry Procek behind, and Procek is the only driver in that pairing in contention, because Dominic Baumann has done all of this season but unfortunately couldn't make this weekend, so that's why Gerhard Twerese is in the car. Here's a look at the Mercedes SLS, a car that because of its weight doesn't really suit this Navarra circuit. A 4th place finish for Simonsen was great in the wet. It's a V8, a front mid-engined engine producing 500 brake horsepower, and the SLS, as I say, not really suited to this circuit, John.
It's got a little bit less horsepower than the some of the competitors around it, notably the Audis with that V10 engine, same with the Lamborghini. So you've got a combination of this balance of performance, weight, engine power, downforce, and it all pretty much equals itself out. Some circuits suit one car better than others. Here right now it looks like we've got a McLaren and an Audi going to be very strong. Concern about that left front brake on the Sandstrom Stippler car, but the seam,
they've changed the disc whilst you were making your way back up here. We saw them changing the disc.
Not ideal, because a new disc with a pad that has not run the disc pad combination will make for a little bit of uncertain braking the first application. Although in fairness, the cars will do another lap behind the pace car and then it'll peel off, so that might just be enough for Frank Stippler to get a feel and confidence in that brake pedal.
And it's not too bad a first corner here with regards to braking, because you have to ease into the braking for the first couple of corners. There you can see the Audi R8, the machine and the engine that John was talking about a moment ago, the V10 under the bonnet, and a little bit more horsepower, as we saw, 500 brake horsepower on the Mercedes, 560 on the Audi, so that could be interesting to watch off the line. The McLaren on pole position though of Sebastian Loeb does tend to be one of the fastest cars off the line, as we've seen in the hands of Alvaro Parente, but Loeb hasn't quite made it work for him this season.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why the McLaren is strong off the line is that because it's a turbocharged engine, you benefit from the massive amount of mid-range torque. And remember, the start of this race is at relatively low speed, 60 kilometers or so an hour, and then when the safety car peels off, it's then a rolling start, and that's where the torque of that engine. And likewise with the Nissan as well, the only other engine in the field that's turbocharged, it also had a blinding start. Alex Buncombe got the car up into turn one from back of the grid, almost up into 4th place.
Absolutely, this is the best circuit that FIA GT Series go to for the Nissans. They prefer the long straights as opposed to the more intimate venues that FIA GT Series go to. Unfortunately, we've got a car missing on the right hand side. That is the number 6 Team India BMW as a non-starter, Aman Ibrahim and Philip Sledeka. Ibrahim wrecked that car at turn 1 in the race this morning, and they haven't been able to repair it. So starting at the back of the grid will be the number 1 HTP Gravity Charouz car of Alan Day and Steph Dusseldorp as the green flag waves and gets underway. Such a shame for Dusseldorp being punted out of the race this morning. The damage meant they had to retire, and therefore they will start right at the back of the grid. That car won at Zandvoort, so keep an eye out on them. Slicing through the order, Alan Day it will be starting the car as they make their way down to the first corner, and there'll be an awful lot of attention on Frank Stippler's brakes, I imagine, as he tries to bed them in these opening few corners so that he's all set to go when the race gets underway. Also, a man to watch out for at the back there is Nicky Meyer-Melnov in the other WRT car, and the Lamborghini Blancpain of Stefan Racina starting in 15th place, because the Lamborghini and the Audi gambled on using slick tyres this morning on a wet track at the start. Didn't work out for them at all, and they dropped back considerably and struggled. Here's a look at the grid then ahead of the main race here in Navarra. It's Sebastian Loeb on pole position for the 5th time this season. Championship second place men right alongside him on the front row. Andy Zuber will start in 5th place in the second Sebastian Loeb racing car. Then our championship leaders there in 7th place. Stefan Otelli at the wheel of the WRT Audi. Patrick Kuna and Alam Koder complete the top 10, whilst Doherty and Chanduk will start on row 6 of the grid. Alex Buncombe should be making a good start, and alongside him will be Gregoire de Moustier. Stefan Racina, the car I just mentioned, will be starting in 15th position. Watch out as well for Nicky Meyer-Melnov, and Attila Abreu should make some good progress as well. And Alan Day will be the last man on the grid, which is a real shame. It's going to be tough, but John, we had rain in qualifying, we had rain in the qualifying race, but finally we've got some nice dry action.
We've got a dry track, first of all, but we've got lots of blue sky, but big cumulus nimbus, I think that's what they are called, clouds all around the circuit.
So on board with Sebastian Loeb, he was on at the Slovakia ring last time out, and he tried to control the pace, didn't he, at the start of the race, and that kind of backfired on him a little bit.
I wouldn't have put it as politely as that. I don't know what he thought he was doing, but whatever
That's why
it
I
was,
have friends.
whatever it was, didn't work. I think what he was trying to do was back the cars up, and at the point when the lights would have gone on, he would have then had the advantage again using the power and the torque of that V8 McLaren engine. It all went wrong, and consequently an opportunity. We saw what happened in turn 1 for Sebastian Loeb. He got caught. The right and left front tire went down, and that then set up a little fire in the front wing. Here, let's go.
Here we go then, it's Sebastian Loeb on pole position. When the lights go out, he will floor the throttle and the race will get underway. As the lights go out now, who's going to get the best getaway? Zuber darts out immediately, but there's no progress for him as they flash down towards the first corner. It's a good start from the outside there for Andreas Simonsen trying to get around the outside. Zuber's up into 2nd place as they come into turn 1. He's got a brilliant getaway, battling there with the Lamborghini. Simonsen's gone wide. Everyone's safely through these first few corners. Simonsen goes wide again, but it's a Sebastian Loeb Racing 1-2 up at the front. Brilliant start from Zuber. 3rd then is Gerhard Twareza. 4th has gone the 2nd place in the championship car of Frank Stippler. Is that our championship leaders off? It is! The number 11 car, Stefan Otelli, sent spinning at turn 5.
I thought that was a right rear puncture. It's not just the tire was so distorted with that spin, so he has gone to the back of the field, and not only has a bad day been a bad day in the qualifying race, it's just gotten an awful lot worse. But where is the Stippler? It is 4th place. It's the 4th of those cars coming down the back straight into turn 9.
And right behind him actually is Steve Doherty in the Nissan. There's also moves being made there with Karun Chandok getting past, but then getting back past because Hubert Hope ran too deep into the corner. Well, what can Stefan Otelli do? Did he pick up any damage after that contact? That's going to be the thing to see. I presume it was contact anyway, coming down into turn 5 with all the cars closing in on one another, but it's a Sebastian Loeb Racing 1-2 up at the front.
It looked like everybody in turn 5 was just so bunched, and Stefan Otelli appears to have been maybe on the outside going into turn 5 and just got squeezed on the outside. Consequently, he is now running at the tail of the field.
So we'll see whether he can catch up with the rest of the pack and how quickly he can make his way through the order. And there is Nicky Melnoff in the number 12 Audi, but across the line then comes Loeb, half a second clear of his teammate. It's all kicking off for 4th position, as it looks like Steve Doherty is going to go past Frank Stippler down the straight. So Steve Doherty having an absolutely fantastic opening lap. He's up into 4th position.
And that's just simply a good engine at a turn 15, using the power, again the torque of the Nissan engine, and no problem whatsoever getting ahead of Frank Stippler, who doesn't really need to find himself dropping one place further down, having started on the front row of the grid alongside Sebastian Loeb. But it is Steve Doherty who's the man, really fastest sector time in first sector of anybody, and this Nissan looks like it could be a real threat to those of the Lamborghini ahead, and then the two McLarens.
Absolutely, we'll keep an eye on that one. There we saw Karun Chandok, who came through that lap in 11th position, but here are the two McLarens leading the way. Then we've got the 3rd place Lamborghini of Gerhard Twareza. A good start for Alam Koder, he's up into 7th position. And Steve Doherty actually set the fastest first sector of anyone coming through there at 26.5, but Loeb is fastest of anyone in the middle sector. I think that's going to be an interesting battle up at the front. The problem now for Stippler is going to be trying to get past Steve Doherty, because that Nissan is very strong in a straight, but I would suggest doesn't have the raw pace of the Audi.
Well, the BMW was given it, but the Sortelli, who now has been given fastest second sector, Sortelli all the way down in 19th place, some 3.5 seconds behind the 18th place car, so he's got a lot of work to do, and really all he can do is just drive, as we know he will do, his heart and soul out to try and recover something from the disaster of the opening lap.
And Stippler now is about to lose out to Andreas Simonsen by the looks of things as they come across the line. Simonson's on the outside and he cruises past Stippler. So Stippler really struggling in these opening stages. Is it the brakes, or is he just not quite getting into the zone yet? Oh, he sent it up the inside. There's going to be a touch there, surely. I think that's pushed them both wide, and that's going to allow Alam Koder to come into the fight, but the BMW can't find a way around the outside at 4.
Alan Koder had been fastest in the middle sector.
And Alan Day goes past Koder. Great start, that from the back of the grid for Alan Day. But Koder then gets the cutback on the inside. And does he finish that move off? Alan Day's holding it in. Oh, bounces up over the curbs.
Well, nothing was wrong with him. He went agricultural. He had to get the car right over the curbs because the BMW was not giving the Mercedes any room at all. And now it's the Nissan of Buncombe who's going to try and get Koder and Alan Day. As we see the Lamborghini there, we look at the Nissan coming out, going to the right-hand side of the racetrack, on screen left-hand side for Alex Buncombe. And that car, the Nissan number 35, was so impressive in the opening lap of the qualifying race this morning. Of course, it had to make that drive-through for an engine change overnight.
So we saw Patrick Kuhner in the pits in the ACL by Road Drive Lamborghini, which is a shame. Hopefully they'll be able to sort that car out and get it out again before it loses a lap. Keep an eye out on that out of the window, but there you can see the 35 Alex Buncombe up into 9th place and is reasonably close to Alan Day in front of him as the race begins to calm down now just a little bit. Across the line comes Sebastian Loeb once more. The gap at the front is now 0.6 of a second. They're lapping at a very similar pace. Gerhard Twareza did the fastest final sector of anyone on that last lap. He's in 3rd place. 4th then is that Nissan of Steve Doherty. 5th Andreas Simonsen. And 6th is Frank Stippler.
Further on the field in 15th place, Gregoire de Moussier, showing again the pace that we saw from a bump up the back. Alan Day tags the rear of the BMW coming through turn 3. And again, Alex Buncombe all over the rear of the Mercedes, just waiting for these two cars to get in contact again, which inevitably will happen. We saw it getting extremely close as they come up to turn 6 and then the turn right to 7. The Mercedes goes up the inside, but it's not going to be able to go around the long way around. It has to fall behind the BMW.
Let's see what the Nissan can do here as it comes onto the back straight, because that's where it's at its strongest. There is Lucas Ordóñez watching on, giving us a little wave, and he will be hoping Alex can continue this climb up the order as they come into the hairpin. Good start from Buncombe, 13th to 8th. Here's a look at the start then, and Loeb in the middle of the circuit. Then it's his teammate on the left-hand side, that second McLaren on the left, that pulls out to the inside line. Also, Simonsen stole the plaudits, but then he ran wide at the first corner.
Yeah, and Gerhard Twareza was sort of caught between the two cars. I think he may have had
to
watch for momentarily back up, but let's have a look at Stefan Ortelli and see what went
there
wrong.
He is.
There he is. He got tagged from behind the BMW.
By the BM.
Yeah. So he just was a passenger in that one. No fault of Stefan Otelli, and he'll be furious because it was an unnecessary contact and something that may be looked at by the stewards. But on the opening lap, let's look at it again from the view that we saw.
That's from the Nissan.
Yes, that's from Buncombe. And again, it was the BMW directly ahead of. At that point, Alex Buncombe was the cause of that incident. Interestingly, these two cars, Sebastian Loeb and Andreas Zuber, I was going to say they weren't getting away from Gerhard Tweiser, but now on this lap, lap 5, the gap has opened up fractionally. But Tweiser was actually holding station with the two lead McLarens, and maybe there was a reason for it the last laps. Well, the last lap between the two McLarens were within a tenth of a second, but Tweiser lost half a second to the lead McLaren, and that's where the gap has come from.
So they're starting to queue up a little bit now behind the BMW of Alain Coder. Alan Day and Alex Buncombe, as a result, dropping back from Frank Stippler in front of them in the Audi. So what can Stippler do to try and climb back up the field? Where has Ortelli got to? He's only in 17th position, right up behind his teammate Nicky Melnov.
You'd have to think that if the team were trying to get, or to assist Ortelli and Van Thor to consolidate their championship lead, that there would be messages going out to Nicky Melnov to not make Ortelli's life difficult. But maybe the team are deciding that's the way the race has evolved and let them sort it out amongst themselves.
It's a right rear wheel problem for the road drive Lamborghini that is still in the pits, so that's a real shame for Patrick Kuhner and Matthias Stump, because they were very entertaining earlier on. As we go on board again with Alex Buncombe into the final corner. Apex is nice and late to try and get the best run out onto the start-finish straight, but he's dropped back just a little bit, and the Mercedes in front actually might be making a move on the BMW. Alain Coder knows it, covers the inside line, but Alain Day will try and go all the way around the outside. No, he doesn't. Tries to get the cut back into three. Oh, he touches him, spins him round. The BMW does a very nice save of that, actually. Nice little drift. Oh, and Day's lost it all by himself. The big winner there, Alex Buncombe, 2 places, gracias.
One of the things you've got to do as a racing driver is learn to read. I don't mean read a book, but read a race. And it was inevitable that Alain Day and the BMW were going to get together at some point. They've been leaning on each other a couple of laps earlier, and Alex Buncombe was just sitting there to pick up the pieces, and he said, many thanks, I'll take that.
On board we go with Steve Doherty, who's now putting the third place man Gerhard Tweiser under pressure. The Lamborghini was very strong in the wet conditions, not quite as strong in the dry, and this is the battle for the lead in Pro-Am as well as third place overall.
So the car that's leading the Pro-Am in this race, the third place Lamborghini, has only got a car between itself and the current leader of the Pro-Am Cup, and that's that number 2 Mercedes-Benz. And then directly behind it you got Frank Stippler, who started in the front row of the grid. We know there's a brake problem with the car on the grid. We hope they had that rectified, but certainly Stippler's race has been a race of going backwards, not staying and consolidating the front row grid position.
But the 3 cars in front of him are all in Pro-Am, so if it were to finish like this, Stippler would finish 3rd in class, Ortelli would finish 9th in class, which would mean the gap going into the final race of the season in Baku would only be 4 points if things stay how they are. So it's still good news for Stippler and Sandstrom. Here's the battle for 3rd place then. The 2 Sebastian Loeb Racing McLarens are absolutely on their way. Here we've got some action with Demoustier going past Stefan Rossina. So that's Demoustier going up into, what is that overall, 10th, up into 9th place.
Position, yes. And that's been a very strong drive all weekend for Grégoire Demoustier in the Van Ryan Racing McLaren. Stefan Rossina, I thought, might have been able to make a further progress. Remember, there was a car that started the qualifying race at the front of the grid. So it's not been able to translate that performance from the wet qualifying into a strong dry run here in the championship race.
And we've got the BMW into the pits. I think it's the one that's just had the collision of Alain Coder. Yep, he's come into the pits with damage. There you can see it. The Lamborghini in front is the one that that has been in there for some time and looks to be pretty much out of the race as Alain Coder exits the pit lane now. Alex Buncombe, now he's in clear air, has just done the fastest first sector of anyone. Where's Chandok off to? He's going into the gravel, and that looked like he just lost it under braking, and he has lost a number of positions now.
I can't wait to hear what a meal is he making of it. I mean, Garoon will tell us it in graphic detail, and it'll make it sound even better than it was, but it looked impressive even as we did see it. Poor chap.
So there is Alex Buncombe, who's absolutely on it. Fastest first sector of anyone as he starts to reel in Frank Stippler in front of him. The two McLarens are still absolutely nose to tail. Look at this.
Well, I think it's the best run we have seen all season from Andreas Zuber in the sister car. I mean, I don't know whether Zuber is going to try and have a little nibble at the rear of Sebastian Loeb's car, maybe even think about trying to take the lead. I'm sure there's nothing that stops him from doing so, but it just indicates that Andreas Zuber has got the potential. We've seen that from other seasons and other forms of motor racing, but it's never quite come together as successfully as we're seeing it here right now.
No, he's a very successful driver, is Andy Zuber. He's won races in GP2, in Formula Renault 3.5. He's raced GT cars for the last couple of years. Now he's putting Sebastian Loeb, who I don't really need to give you a summary of his racing CV, the 9-times World Rally Champion, under considerable amounts of pressure. Look at that, Loeb even going defensive. So I can't imagine how unpopular Zuber would be if he punted off his team boss.
Well, you can imagine. It would certainly make headlines around the world. And the defence of third place, Gerhard Tways, are still having to defend from Steve Doherty, doing a super job in the Nissan. And then Stippler behind, the first of the Audis. I mean, look how defensive we're seeing Sebastian having to go. These are the wives of respective drivers' girlfriends, and this is a battle, whether it's for real or whether it's just running so competitively that they can afford to run this close. But Zuber right over the back of Sebastian Loeb's car coming through turn 14, having to get out of the brakes and get out of the rear of the car to avoid running into the back of the boss's car. Imagine running into the back of the boss's car.
Absolutely, down the start-finish straight they come, absolutely neck and neck. Coming out of the pits just to the left-hand side, you'll see the road drive Lamborghini, so good to see them back in the race as they come through turns 1, 2 and 3. This is the 9th lap now of the race. We've still got 10 minutes before the pit stop window opens, so this is going to be very, very interesting to see how things transpire. Looking dark over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the far end of the circuit, you can see that dirty big black lump of cloud. Hopefully the way the wind's blowing, it might keep it away from the racetrack. Certainly we're enjoying a battle. We've not seen a battle like this between these two. Sebastian Loeb entered McLaren MP412Cs, and wouldn't it be nice to see Andreas or Andy Zuber try and make a pass and actually make the boss work for it? No use praying, not in your hands.
That's Zuber's other half on the right, Loeb's other half on the left as they come down into the hairpin. Neither Sebastian Loeb nor Andy Zuber have scored a podium so far this year. We've yet to see a Sebastian Loeb Racing Team car on the podium, but despite that, they're still running in second place in the championship and in with a reasonably realistic chance of winning that championship as well. They're only some 35 points behind, with 70-ish remaining once we get to Baku. So this could be a very good news for Sebastian Loeb in terms of the team's championship.
Well, you know, this is coming up to the conclusion of lap 9. Well, let's just under 15 minutes into the race, and I'm looking skyward, and all I'm seeing is darkness surrounding the racetrack now. We're going to have another joker being played as we look at Alex Buncombe again.
We're also looking at Gerhard Twareza, who's dropped from 3rd place right down now to 5th position, and we're on board. I'm not sure, but we're on board now with Frank Stippler trying to get back past Twareza. Twareza's right in the slipstream of Alex Buncombe in the battle for 5th place. So Twareza's actually down to 6th position, and Stippler's just lost out to the McLaren. So Gregoire de Moustier has just breezed past Frank Stippler down the straight.
And that car of Gregoire de Moustier is absolutely, it's been flying through the field. Gregoire de Moustier has done a brilliant job here for Von Ryan Racing, and he will be looking now to find a way past the Lamborghini, and he looks down the inside into turn 5. It's not really feasible. He wasn't far enough alongside the Lamborghini to have any hope of getting into position, but the message is there that this McLaren is absolutely flying, as are the other two McLarens in the race at the lead and 2nd place.
Yep, absolutely. There we can see 2 of them coming down into the hairpin. Now then in 3rd place is Steve Doherty, who's also leading the Pro-Am class. 2nd in Pro-Am class right behind is Andreas Simonsen. And 3rd place in Pro-Am is Alex Buncombe behind them. That white Lamborghini of Patrick Kuhner is out of sync. He's been in the pits and is 6 laps down. So
contact between de Moustier and to Azer, and that's a lot.
Good news for Stippler though, because that's going to allow Stippler to get past both of them.
Damaged front suspension, the McLaren on the right-hand side, and there it is, not just damage, I think it's a failure of the suspension in that contact. And what a shame for a great run by Gregoire de Mouzier. That contact in that very tight turn 12 section of the racetrack is the end of the race for Bahrain Racing.
To the right-hander they come. There is Hubert Hope doing a good job in 10th place, and you can see that Von Ryan McLaren is very unwell, and Gregoire de Moustier pulls it to a place of safety, and unfortunately will be retiring that car. Here's a look at the replay on board with Frank Stippler behind. There's the look from, well, you'd have to say he was quite a long way alongside there.
Well, it was the right front, left rear, and in effect it wasn't far enough forward to say that was your corner, but what it did do, I mean, you look at racing cars and you think, well, that was a very simple incident. Why did the suspension break? Well, principally because suspensions are designed to do particular things. They're not meant to be used as dodging cars, and just particular angle and the weight of the impact is enough to do damage to the right front of de Mousier's McLaren and take it out of the race.
So that little shuffle means that Stippler's now up into 6th place. Racina is up into 7th place. I haven't mentioned him much, but he is up into 7th position, I believe. The blue flags are being waved. Yeah, there's the white Lamborghini pulling out the way. That was Patrick Kuna. But then that Blancpain Lamborghini coming through is Stefan Racina. Here comes Hubert Hope, feeling racy and trying to get past Gerhard Twareza. Right up behind them, is that Ortelli? Yes, it is. So this is Ortelli's fight back on. We haven't mentioned him for a while, but this is him going past Hubert Hope, and he's now into the top 10 and up into 5th overall. 5th in class.
Yeah, and that's a great drive for Stefan Ortelli. We've not really been catching much of it, but he's made his way from the tail of the field in the opening lap now up into 10th place, and there's every belief that he's going to make it up into the top 10 by being 9th very shortly, as he now hones in the back of the Lamborghini as they come into turn 15. And the Monegasque driver is tenacious, if anything.
Absolutely. Out onto the start straight they come. There go Stippler and Racina in 6th and 7th place, and this is 8th, 9th, 10th. And there in 11th place is the Mercedes. So Frank Stippler, before too long, may well have his teammate and title rival right on his heels.
Absolutely, and the 16-point deficit that Stippler has to Ortelli is not going in the direction, certainly, of Stippler and Sandstrom, who will take over that car in, well, the pit lane will be open in the best part of, what, 4 minutes and 18 odd seconds.
Here is Steve Doherty in 3rd place. Right behind him is Andreas Simonsen. This is the battle for the overall lead in the Pro-Am class. Out onto the back straight they come. There's 1st and 2nd in Pro Cup. Here's 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am. And coming very quickly to join in is Alex Buncombe. So we're almost looking at an RJN Nissan 1-2. They were told they couldn't enter British GT this year because they were too quick, and I think they're proving us right at the moment.
That's a good car, the Nissan GTR. But of course, on some tracks, it's probably better suited than it is in others. But a really impressive drive from Steve Doherty, the young American driver, into the car currently. And Alex Buncombe, who also had to start further down the field because of the circumstances of the qualifying race. And he needs to get onto the tail of Simonsen and the Mercedes-Benz to take a little bit of the pressure off Doherty and try and make this a Nissan 1-2 in the Pro-Am as they stand.
Buncombe was a little bit slower on that last lap. We'll see if he's managed to close in on this lap as they come across the line. Doherty running in 3rd place, but 1st in Pro-Am. Buncombe comes across the line to go 8/10 of a second quicker than Andreas Simonsen in front of him. So it won't be long before Buncombe is right in this fight. It's Doherty in the black Nissan, Simonsen in the white Mercedes, and Buncombe in the white Nissan behind.
Yeah, on the last lap, Buncombe took 3/4 of a second out of this battle for 3rd place, and he will probably continue to do so. But the problem will come when he closes to the back of that Mercedes. Then he's got to find a way to really sweep through with the momentum he's currently got. That 1/2 to 3/4 of a second advantage over the pace that Steve Doherty's running at, which is dictating the pace of the Mercedes. Right now, Buncombe's got his own pace, so he needs to find a part of the racetrack where he is strong and he can use that advantage to try and use the slipstream of these two cars ahead. Remember, the Nissan is quite a big frontal area and it punches a big hole in the air, and that's allowing the Mercedes to slip along directly in that slipstream, which hopefully will help Buncombe as he gets closer to the back of this battle.
the left-hander of turn 11. Steve Doherty now coming under quite a decent amount of pressure. There's Mike Parisi getting ready to take over from the second place car of Andy Zuber. So pit stops could well decide the order in which these drivers come out in up at the front, and pit stops can decide everything right throughout the field, really. It's such an important role of FIA GT racing. The last corner they come. Doherty going a little conservatively defensive, but he knows that Nissan is strong in a straight line. Simonsen, though, got a pretty good drive out of the final corner, but the Nissan, with its straight line grunt, is comfortably able to hold him off, and all this allows Alex Buncombe to come into the party and take another half a second out of the guys in front of him, so he's only 0.8 of a second behind now. After Buncombe, we've got Stipler Racina and now Stefano Telli up into 8th place overall. This is the battle between Gerhard Tuareza and Alan Day. Day in the HTP Mercedes, Tuareza in the Lamborghini behind.
So a lot of disappointment maybe in some respects. I thought Gerhard Tuareza, after a blinding drive in wet conditions, might have been stronger in the dry conditions, but not to be the case. So the big winner out of all this right now is going to be Stefano Telli, having started on the 4th row of the grid, then dropped to the tail of the field after contact in turn 5, back up to 8th place, and was what, 3 seconds, just about 3 seconds behind 7th place Stefano Racina. There you can see the Lamborghini between those two cars, Stipler, the Lamborghini of Racina, and then Ortelli.
Now what can Andreas Simonsen do? He's been right up behind Steve Doherty for a good amount of time. His main championship rival is a couple of places behind, running in 4th overall, whereas Simonsen is 4th in class, whereas Simonsen is 2nd in class. But Alex Buncombe is now right with these guys, and watch out for the Nissan coming out onto the start-finish straight, because that's where it's strong, and that could be the opportunity for Buncombe to try and make the move and make it an RJ and Nissan 1-2 at the top of the order in Pro-Am.
He's about as close as you can get without having contact or losing momentum, and really what he wants now is to follow the Mercedes and try and pick up whatever slipstream is available to him. And you can see again, Doherty is able to pull away. Buncombe is getting the slipstream. He's beginning to close, but the defence from the Mercedes is precluding a pass. But now Simonsen's going to have to think not just about what's ahead. Outside for Buncombe, but he can't get the job done. But can he do it in the undercut? No, but now Simonsen has got to worry not about trying to get past the Doherty Nissan, but he's got to try and think about preventing the Buncombe Nissan from passing him.
It's suddenly got a lot more difficult for Andreas Simonsen, but he's a very experienced racer, the Swede, and he's been very impressive this season as well, taking very strong qualifying performances and race performances. They won overall last time out in Slovakia. What can he do? Coming down the back straight as they come towards the hairpin. Nothing doing just yet, but I think Buncombe's best opportunity is on the start straight. There's Andy Zuber, and he's got a problem. Right rear puncture for Andreas Zuber from 2nd place in the race. That's devastating for him. Great news for Loeb on a personal level, because that gets him off his back. Oh, but Loeb's coming in. This could be, I mean, hopefully they will get that number 9 McLaren sorted before Zuber comes into the pits. Meanwhile, here's the Simonson's got past Doherty. Doherty wants to go into the pits. Oh, his teammate's there. Oh, no. So they both have to stay out.
Well, I mean, the two Nissans, I don't know what they were thinking they were doing, but we got Simonsen ahead of Steve Doherty, and then all of a sudden Buncombe saw the opportunity and he got squeezed to the outside of the track before they got to go through turn 14. And so really the two Nissans tripping over one another. The Mercedes is clear now as we look at the, well, in fact, it's Simonsen technically leading the race because they've yet to pit stop. Doherty 2nd, Buncombe 3rd, Ortelli up to 4th place. But of course, the overlap of pit stop will then very close, very tight in the pits. Harry Project going to get into that Lamborghini.
But that was our race leader who's just been into the pits and back out again. Sebastian Loeb has now handed over to Alvaro Parent. And there's a drive-through penalty for that HTP Mercedes car number 1 for avoidable contact with that BMW a few laps ago, which I think is probably fair enough.
Absolutely.
And so we've had the 1 McLaren go out of the pits. Has the 2nd McLaren left the pit lane? Yes, it has.
It's quite a long way behind the car that Alvaro Parent is in. So you see Audi's now filtering out as well. So it'll be interesting to see when the rest of the field come in, whether they choose to come in at the earliest opportunity. As we've seen the leaders And I think Andreas Zuber's was not a choice, it was a necessity, but it happened to be convenient that the pit stop window had just opened. But certainly Loeb came in, he was on the lap, intending to come in before the pit stop window was open, knowing that by the time he got onto pit straight or into turn 14, which is the penultimate turn, he could just dive straight across into the pit lane.
Now let's see if Steve Doherty can get into the pit lane this time without being bulked by Buncombe. He can indeed.
And they're both
going to come in, so that's going to be busy times for RG. And I think Ortelli's coming in as well behind, did I see? Might have made that up, but I thought I saw the Audi darting in. No, I think he stays out for the moment. So this will be busy times for the RJN crew, with two of their cars coming into the pits in one go.
Yeah, the Ortelli car's just gone past us on the pit straight, so he's got clear air, and that'll allow Ortelli to do what he's capable of doing, and that's getting another couple or 3 laps.
They're not ready for Buncombe. Look, they're not ready for Buncombe. They're not ready for the white Nissan. He goes up on the jacks eventually, but it's not really working for them. Look, there's no one there ready with tyres. It's all very last minute. They haven't even started changing the tyres, and the car's been up on the jacks for a good few moments now.
Yes, very strange now. Obviously the driver changes are going on, and now they're getting the wheels and tyres changed. So whether that was a miscommunication or not, or whether because of what happened the lap earlier, there we see that's the Steve Doherty car now been handed over, and that's driven by Wolfgang Reip, so he's on his way down the pit lane. And this is disappointment indeed for Luca Ordonez and his home race, for that car to be still stationary up on jacks.
Behind that white line, Wolfgang. Very close to that white line exit. And he comes out then behind Marc Basseng now.
So be a challenge.
Yeah, and then finally Lucas Ordonez gets away. What a shame for Lucas. There you can see the HTP Mercedes has made his drive through now and comes out. So we'll wait for a few moments before we get the true order. In fact, we still haven't seen Stefan Ortelli come into the pits, nor Andreas Simonsen. They're the kind of main ones. Alvaro Parenta's come out. 9 seconds clear now. That's how long they lost. They lost 9 or 10 seconds with that puncture. But Andreas Simonsen it is, leading the race. But he is yet to make his pit stop to hand over to Sergei Afanasiev.
Interestingly, Michele Rugo in the Ferrari, the only Ferrari in the race, fastest first sector, personal best. Well, it would be his personal best because it's his first flying lap. And there we do see Ortelli. I think it's Ortelli. Yep, it is. Lucas Van Voor. So he only had 1 lap of clear air. He didn't choose to say try and push and maybe eat a bit further into the gap that would effectively be between him and the Stifler Sandstrom car.
So that's going to be the big question as we look out the window. When will the Stifler Sandstrom car come through? There it is, coming out of the final corner now, I believe. And so it will still be ahead, not hugely ahead, but in fact I don't think there'll be any cars between them, will there? But look at that, that's our second place car now, the McLaren, followed by the 3rd place Audi, and this 4th place Audi is, I think, how it ultimately shakes out. We'll have to wait for confirmation, but I think that's our top 4 there, which means in 5th place is now Marc Basseng. Right up behind him in 6th position is the very friendly Belgian Wolfgang Reip, even when he got punted out of the race in Nurburgring last time out. He was more than happy to have a chat, having just been punted out, and he was furious, but yeah, I'll have a chat, no problems, as we go on board with him now, chasing down Marc Basseng.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to look up the inside. Basseng holds it out on the outer line to get that, really get the late apex, or to turn 6, and you can see just how quickly the Nissan has closed down the Lamborghini. Then they swerve or back to the right to go through turn 7, and then ultimately onto the straight. But what's been interesting is that every sector of the circuit we're seeing purples, but not from one driver, but from 3 individual drivers on their particular first flying lap when the tire is at its freshest. So hard on the brakes, Wolfgang Reip looking to find a way, get ahead of Marc Basseng, who knows Lamborghini's probably better than any racing driver I know.
Hubert Haupt has come into the pits to hand over to his teammate for this weekend, Martin Matzke. See where they come out. Andreas Simonsen is still out there lapping. He's the only man left yet to have come into the pit lane. And there is Haupt doing the seatbelts up for his co-driver, but there's a little bit of a problem there, so they're losing some time, which is a shame. But this is a good opportunity now for the Nissan because it's strong in a straight line. Reip is right up behind, as they come across the line. The Lamborghini's pretty nifty in a straight line as well, though.
Remember,
it's closing in, though. Here comes Wolfgang Wright. Bassin goes defensive. He's going to force Wright to go the long way round if he wants to, but he's not able to at the moment.
And remember, there's a massive amount of difference in actual motor racing experience as the Lamborghini gets a little bit out of shape in turn 2. Wolfgang Wright's got to move over to the left to avoid contact, but it's the experience that Marc Bessang has that's going to really pull the chain for Wolfgang Wright. He's got to really go on a very rapid as he looks down the inside, but again, nowhere near close enough to be alongside. So this is a bit of a masterclass for the young Belgian driver and the tall Belgian from Belgium, and the German master. Marc Bessang.
He's Brussels.
As they're all from Brussels.
So Wolfgang is working hard. There's our race leader still, Andreas Simonsen, yet to come into the pits, so it'll have to be this time around as we continue watching the battle between Bessang and Wright.
It's good to see a bit of motor racing.
Absolutely.
I mean, two different manufacturers, two totally different concepts. One is mid-engine V10, the other is front-engine V6 turbo. And you couldn't buy in your local Lamborghini or Nissan showroom two diverse automobiles, but both, believe me, are street machines that are blindingly quick.
Lucas Ordóñez has just set the fastest first sector of anyone in his determination to climb back up the order after that horrible moment in the pits. But this is going to be the opportunity, is it, for Wolfgang Wright?
Absolutely, he got closer to him, but maybe just slightly late on the brakes, and that allowed the Lamborghini to get the initial advantage off turn 15. Now you see the power of the Nissan closing, but it's always just at the late end bit of the straight where, of course, without problem, Bessang can take his line and also choose his line for turn 2. Again, the back of the Lamborghini seems to be slightly, you would think, almost under-damped the way it's hopping as it goes between turns 2 and turn 3.
Laurens Vanthoor just set the fastest third sector of anyone and is close to 6 seconds behind Edvard Sandström. That last lap he lapped 9/10 of a second quicker. Here comes Andreas Simonsen into the pits then. He has got a 28-second lead over Alvaro Parent, so it's going to be reasonably close, this. I think Parent will have it.
He's not going to get it done. I mean, I don't think they can come in the pit lane and get out ahead of this car. Alvaro Parent down at turn 12. There, the Mercedes comes to a standstill. And Simonsen gets out, Afanasiev gets in. So, coming through turn 13, then the little short run down to 14, and then you're into the final turn. And to me, Alvaro Parent will pull onto the straight, as he's about to do now. And they're still working on the Mercedes. The door goes down, and they're still got to change. Well, they've got all 4 wheels and tyres changed. I'll get the car fired up. So the McLaren has taken on the lead, and in fact they've lost 2 positions because the second of the 2 McLarens, driven by Mike Parisi, has gone through in 2nd place. And who else is going to come through before Mercedes gets on? It's Sandström going to do it. He has.
Sandström comes through as well, and possibly Laurens Vanthoor. Now this could be important. If Vanthoor can't get past and gets stuck behind Afanasiev, he's got the speed, so he should maybe be able to get it done now. If not, he could lose some time here in his chasing of Edvard Sandström in front of him. He hasn't been able to get it done just yet. He's got good drive out of turn 3, but that's bad news for Laurens Vanthoor as he tries to chase down Edvard Sandström.
That was the opportunity that was sitting there to be taken. It almost occurred in turn 3, but the Russian driver managed to consolidate and keep the Mercedes ahead of the Audi, and now it's going to be a real battle for Laurens Vanthoor to not get trapped at the pace of the Mercedes and then consequently find himself unable, as we look at Andreas Simonsen, who's done a good job and not really looking overly heated.
No, this is the battle then for fourth place overall. It's comfortably the Pro-Am lead for Sergei Afanasiev now. Wolfgang Wright 2nd in class, 7th overall, and Michael Ammermuller now has climbed up to 3rd place in class. So this is great for their championship chances because Harry Procek is down in 4th in class with Afanasiev set to win it. So that'll be great news for them. Whoa, I just said that, and he gets all out of shape. Vanthoor tries to find the inside line, does find it, and moves through. Now, how much time has he got to close in? He's got to find about 6 seconds to close in on Edvard Sandström. Otherwise, they will lose out, and what is a 16-point advantage will drop only by 3 points. It'll become a 13-point advantage, but still, anything can happen when you end up at a street race in Baku.
Indeed. To think back to the Slovakia ring when we saw an absolutely virtuoso drive from Laurens van Voor to come through and take the podium position, well, I suspect we're going to look for a similar one as Wolfgang Reip looks to battle away past. And is that
Basseng still in front of him?
Basseng indeed. So he's still, that battle's just basically just remain, and Basseng is able to control effectively Wolfgang Reip. He's not having to do anything dramatic to make the life difficult for. And look up the inside. He's going to have a go this time. Nearly got contact. Left front, right front, left rear. Usual mechanism.
Oh, he's gone for it here.
Now.
He's really pushing, isn't he? Marc Basseng will be working very hard in that Lamborghini to keep Wolfgang behind. He realises he's got to find some way of getting past, because although it's the top-end speed that is strong for the Nissan, as Jelmer Berman gets out of his BMW, so problems there at Vita for One. A real shame, because it was fantastic to have them in the series, but unfortunately they've run into difficulties.
Yeah, I wondered if that stemmed from the fairly substantial moment we saw Karun Chandruk have on the entry into turn 9 much earlier in the race. Sometimes there's a legacy of a fairly hairy moment like that that only manifests itself a bit further down as we keep this battle between Wolfgang Reip, Marc Basseng, and now behind you've got Oliver Jarvis, who's going to join in, and again he'll be looking to pick up any bits and pieces that might arise. So there's a bit of impatience from the Belgian driver in the Nissan.
So the problem for Reip is that the car is strong in a straight, but the traction out of the final corner isn't that strong, although he's got it done very nicely this time. This is going to be his best opportunity, I think, because he's very, very close to the Lamborghini. Here comes Wolfgang Reip in the battle for 6th place. Basseng goes defensive. Reip puts it on the outside. Basseng comes and says, you're going to have to be brave if you want to get past. Reip is brave, and he moves up past Marc Basseng into 6th place.
Well, I tell you, I bet it wasn't like that when he was doing the GT Academy. It was probably a lot easier in your living room playing on a virtual racetrack, but that was a well-executed and courageous move coming up to a very quick curve on the outside, and it was Marc Basseng who had to blink first and let the Nissan get the advantage. Now under pressure from Oliver Jarvis in the Audi behind, so from being a plier of pressure, he's now going to be the victim of it from Jarvis.
But Reip is still, even with that move, second in class, so no changes made there. Steve Doherty on the right in the glasses, he's happy with that. Alex Buncombe less happy, sitting down on the stool after a difficult race for him. Well, he himself had a great race, but it was the difficulties they ran into during the pit stop window that means they're running now down 13th. In 13th place, which is 5th overall, sorry, 5th in class. And now Marc Basseng has got that Audi of Oliver Jarvis, as you say, right up behind him. And now that Reip's got past, he's going to sprint away, and more troubles, unfortunately, for the road drive Lamborghini. Matthias Stumper's now brought it into the pits.
I mean, I think Marc Basseng he was doing a job, and that was defending. And now that the Nissan has gotten ahead, it's going to be relatively clear air and easy for Wolfgang Reip. And Oliver Jarvis realises that the Lamborghini, its overall lap time is below that of his Audi, but of course he's got the problem now of finding a way past. It took Wolfgang Reip quite a long time to get the deal done. It was done as they come up here to the curve. That is turn 1 flat out in these conditions, 250 kilometers per hour, and then you're off the throttle on the brakes and preparing for turns 2 and 3, which in effect become almost one big corner. There is the broken disc. That's unusual. Well, I haven't seen a disc shattered like that in a long, long time.
Now, what can Ollie Jarvis do? If he gets past Marc Basseng, he will move him into 5th place in class. Up at the front, meanwhile, it is still Alvaro Parent, 11 seconds clear of Mike Parisi, who's 4 seconds clear of Sandstrom. Now, Van Thor is
5 seconds, 5.5 seconds
5.5 seconds back, and only lapping half a second quicker.
Yeah, but 19 minutes remaining, so I mean it is entirely feasible. And Laurens van Thor, last lap for him was a 1:40.4. The last lap for Edvard Sandstrom was a 1:41.2. So the best part of 3/4 of a second, that you're going to be kind, to Laurens van Thor. And if he can do that lap on lap, he's going to run that down before we get anywhere near the end of this race.
News from the pit lane is that it was splitter damage that forced the BMW out of the race as a result of Karun's excursion into the gravel trap.
Never out of the news, is he?
There's our race leader though, Alvaro Parent. Will everything finally come together for Sebastian Loeb Racing here at Navarra? They could take their first win of the season in the main race, and their first podium, and it'll be a 1-2, so it'll be a very impressive performance if they can pull it off. Here's Basseng doing battle with Oliver Jarvis still. Basseng in the white Lamborghini, the reigning GT1 world champion. Ollie Jarvis behind, who races in all sorts. Races in prototypes, in GT cars.
And he's right on the tail of the Lamborghini coming out of turn 3. And Mark Basseng is just really driving in a defensive mode. He knows, as Nicky Meyer-Menhoff, he's happy with that. Nicky, come on, show us how you feel. Down the inside, Ollie Jarvis, beautiful swoops through into turn 5. That's how you make a pass in turn 5. No contact, just got the car alongside before Mark Basseng was in the position to defend. And clean and fair racing, what I like to see. And look at the gap, he's already opened up a gap on the Lamborghini just simply by being able to get through in turn 5, and then 6, 7 and 8 just extended with the BMW now behind, and that's going to put a bit of heat again on the rear view mirror of Mark Basseng.
So that means that the Audi of Oliver Jarvis is into 7th position, which is 5th in class. WRT are running 3rd, 4th and 5th in class now. Crucially, it's Edward Samstrom leading the way out of those 3, and he is set to close in the lead at the top of the championship. Only very minorly, but enough to keep it alive going to the final weekend of the season, and reasonably alive as well. It's not a totally outrageous proposition for Sandstrom and Stippler to win it. Just a solid weekend and a bit of bad luck for Van Thorn or Telly, and they'll be well in with a shot. Across the line comes Ollie Jarvis then. Alvaro Parent leading the way ahead of Mike Parisi in 2nd place. It's now 12 seconds, the gap up at the front, so Parisi lapping very strongly. Here's a replay of the move, and Jarvis realised that Basseng goes wide there, and he had the same realisation that it's fantastic watching Nicky Meyer-Melnhoff, always entertaining, but he saw the gap that Wolfgang Reip tried to exploit, but the traits of the Nissan weren't quite able to use the gap to its maximum potential, so he got him down the straight around the outside into turn 1. Great move from Wolfie, that was. And now the next man that Mark Basseng has to defend against is Steph Dusseldorp. These two did battle last season in the GT1 World Championship. They were both in different cars. In fact, Basseng was in a Mercedes and Dusseldorp was in a McLaren. The Mercedes looks to the inside, coming down into 9. Not close enough. Oh, Basseng's gone in too deep. That's going to allow Dusseldorp the chance to get up the inside. Can Basseng keep it around the outside? No, he can't. No. And Dusseldorp goes through. I wonder if there's a problem with that Lamborghini, because the pace was good earlier.
Well, in the initial laps, the pace was good, but basically, it's been since the pit stop, certainly, Mark Basseng's been fighting a rear guard action to keep everybody behind him at bay, starting with Steve Doherty in the Nissan and then everybody else. So whatever the issues are for Mark Basseng, no doubt it's a grip-related one. But he's just being cherry-picked now as cars overtaken those behind, catch up, and pretty much. And the Lamborghini actually is in the pit lane. So is that the reason why? Is it something we're not aware of? I thought it might have been simply just down to grip, but maybe there is a bigger issue for Mark Basseng and car 24.
Let's see what happens to Basseng. Real shame, because the best lap of the race for that car is a 1 minute 41.4. which is well in contention, quicker than Reip's fastest lap of the race, and well, you can see he's not even making it down to the Lamborghini garage, and he's come to a standstill on the pit lane apron. So
just another interesting little fact that we've sort of not seen very much of it, but Michele Rugolo in the Ferrari, of course, the Ferrari, it has actually had the fastest race lap of everybody in a 1:39.9, and you know, that's part of the gentleman drivers. I mean, it's just a super performance.
Yep, Rugolo with a strong weekend here. He had a strong weekend as well in Slovakia. They're pushing the Lamborghini now into the garage by the looks of things, so looks like the race is over. There's the 35 Nissan. Ordóñez at the wheel. He's up into 5th position now, only a second behind Harry Procek in front of him, and only, well, and then in a further 8 seconds to Ammermuller, but definitely a class podium is on here. No, 4th place in class is on, sorry, for Ordóñez.
Yeah, just looking down. Currently they're down in 12th on the road, but they've got battles going on.
Out of the car, shakes his head. Disappointed. I was going to try and listen in, but it's all German.
Yeah, I mean, and also there's nothing external on the car that we could look at to say is potentially the cause. Looking around the back of the car to see if there's any reason. I mean, whether there's thinking about be a technical problem, possibly a gearbox and such, but there's nothing that you can see from that view of the car that indicates what the problem is. Hopefully we'll find out before this race concludes in just over 12 minutes.
Into the pits has come one of the Audis. I think it might be the championship leaders looking out the window. We'll see if we can pick that up. I've just spotted it out of the window, and we'll wait and see as we go on board with the Nissan of Lucas Ordóñez. There it is, it's number 11. The championship leading Audi is into the pits, and this turns things on its head again.
Right front wheel, no it's not, he's working around the driver door. Is that it? I mean, has there been a contact or something? There's work going on, and just unfortunately whether it's the right rear has come off. Has that been a puncture, or has that been another issue, or are they going to change all 4 tyres? I mean, what is going on?
They've taken the wheel off, haven't they?
Well, they've taken one wheel off. I mean, whether they're going to change all 4, because the time involved changing all 4 is going to be greater than changing just one.
The bonnet's going up as well now. The bonnet's going up as well.
Oh, and that's just there's fluid somewhere getting onto that brake disc, and that's the reason why the car's come in. Whether that's brake fluid itself, whether that's what's been leaking, but it doesn't seem to. I mean, the temperature of the carbon fibre discs is so high, it's probably about 300-400 Celsius. At the point it came to a stop, right now it's losing heat at a massive rate, and the Audi engineers pouring extinguishant is still going. It still wants to ignite, and there must be surely fluid coming from the caliper that's leaking onto that hot disc that's causing it to keep igniting. And he's going to run out of fire extinguishant very shortly, because that is still a hot area around the rear, right, the left rear of the Audi.
Well, what a drama for the number 11 Audi. The championship leaders, Stefan Ortelli and Laurence Vanthor, look to be out of the race.
Well, they're not out of the race, but they're out of the points.
Yep.
I mean,
they'd still get a couple of points if they got back out, but they're out of the big scoring positions, and if they can't get back out, that means Edward Sandstrom is going to pick up 15 points and slash the advantage to just 1 point going into the final round of the season in Baku.
I'm familiar with that one finger indication. Who does that? Would it be a German racing driver by chance?
But anyway, our race leader, Alvaro Parent, pulling away from Mike Parisi, half a second a lap in recent laps. But, well, the championship has just taken a big old twist.
Interesting, the Ferrari of Michele Regolo running behind the second place car of Mike Parisi is running actually quicker, and I would not be surprised if Regolo does get ahead of Mike Parisi, because the Ferrari pace is very strong. Regrettably, the car is down in 14th place. It's finished.
Out of the race. Look at that dejection from Laurence Vanthor. He climbs out of the car, and the race is coming to Edward Sandstrom. Ortelli
just puts an arm around Vanthor. I mean, clearly emotions are very high in circumstances like this, but that appears to have been a brake issue. We saw there was a brake issue with the Sandstrom Stippler car on the grid where they had to change the left front disc, but this is a rear problem. Whether it's, I mean, to me there was something leaking from the rear of the car, most likely a caliper, and well, is Vanthor giving up?
Is the gloves going back on?
He might put them back on again. He might think there's a point in going back on.
Gloves are going back on, because if he gets out and finishes and gets to the end of the race, I think he'd be 8th in class, which would mean he'd pick up 4 points. So then it would only be a 5-point difference between them at the final race of the season. But we'll have to wait and see, because he's already gone 3 laps down.
What would be the need? What would be the minimum laps he would have before he would be non-classified? To check that one up. But it's a question of whether Audi feel it is appropriate to let that car go back out. It could go out as the walking wounded, but that wouldn't really achieve a great deal. So there is that battle. It's not a battle for position, it's just a battle between two drivers having a lovely day here in Navarra. It's Mike Parisi and Michele Rugolo in the Ferrari. Back into the car. So whatever the issues have they been fully addressed, or is this going to be simply get out and just drive to the end? There are a couple of points you can pick up, and those couple of points can make all the difference when it comes down to the final round, somewhat later in the season in Baku in Azerbaijan.
Navarra Parent leading the way, 15 seconds clear of Mike Parisi in second place now. Parent has been superb up at the front today. Absolutely commanding drive from Alvaro. Across the line comes this battle between Abreu and Dusseldorf. And Dusseldorf has been closing in by some 0.8 of a second a lap, Steph Dusseldorf, so it's a good performance from him. And he might well be able to get past this car and up into 5th place in class by the end of the race, which would be a very strong performance considering he's had to do a drive-through penalty in this race.
Yes, I mean, at the BMW ahead, in theory, the Mercedes should be able to pretty much handle all that, and currently with Steph Dusseldorf, very useful young Dutch driver and a lot of experience in GT racing, so raced here before in Aston Martins and knows his way around it. Knows the places you can pass and the places that you shouldn't try and pass, probably more important.
7 minutes to go here in Navarra. It's the 5th round of the season, and it is becoming a dramatic 5th round. There you can see still no action being taken on the rear left. They're now 5 laps down of the 30 completed.
Well, one of the mechanics is working around that rear brake, whether they're going to try and replace the caliper or replace the whole brake assembly, but it's going to be quite a process to get the caliper and brake disc off. Then you've got to re-bleed the whole system, and with 6 minutes, or 6.5 minutes roughly remaining, all he can hopefully do is get out before the flag comes out.
There's Steph Dusseldorf then, meanwhile, coming out onto the start straight. Is this going to be his opportunity to close in on Attila Abreu in the number 21 BMW Team Brazil squad? And a drive-through penalty has actually been given as well for car number 11, which is Van Thorn Ortelli. Well, they're not going to be able to do it.
Well, how are they going to do a drive-through? They're stuck in the pits. I mean, okay, it's part of the rules of running a regulation of running a race. So a pit stop for car 11 under investigation, and the penalty is a drive-through penalty for car 11 pit stop infringement. And anyway, the car is in the pits, but that doesn't mean it mustn't. If it goes back out again, it's still got to do a drive-through penalty. I mean, it's amazing. Rules and regulations, who makes them up?
5.5 minutes to go, and this is the battle worth watching. But take a hammer to it.
Yeah, but no, one of the things is, so it's welded, the pad is probably welded to the disc, which is probably a consequence of where the fire was. Whether that was fluid has now just acted as a welding flux between the pad and the disc. There's this little battle which we're enjoying for 7th place between the BMW and probably at this minute the slightly quicker of the two cars, the Mercedes driven by Steph Dusseldorf.
This is the front-running BMW. Caca Bueno's down in 13th place after they got tapped early on in this race, very early on in fact, and had to come into the pits to repair some damage. So another difficult weekend for the BMW Team Brazil squad, who have again shown pace this weekend at various points, but haven't quite been able to turn it into results.
So is that a replacement caliper that that's finally been attached? So it's got to be then bolted to the upright at the rear. And the only thing is, have they been able to avoid having to bleed the brakes, which I suspect they will need to do. Otherwise, there's not going to be an awful lot of braking in that left rear corner. And it would make a very uncomfortable drive for Laurens van Thor if they did send it out with 4 minutes of the race remaining. And he might be lucky and get out and get one complete lap. But this battle is enthralling now into turn 5. Doesn't get any closer than this. Can the Mercedes make the undercut? It's gone very wide on the entry to turn 6 to try and get the advantage out of 7 and to try and pass into turn 8. Not an easy place to do so. And again, just preparation now. Keep it close to the back of the BMW. You can see the BMW accelerating that momentary second or so quicker. But this is a chance for Dusseldorf to do the business, get alongside. No, the BMW's got good straight line speed on that particular straight, that's for sure. But Dusseldorf all over the back of the BMW. It's not, I think, a matter of if, but more when, in my view, with 3.5 minutes to go.
Exactly, not long left as Alvaro Perez continues out there on the circuit. He comes across the line. 17.5 seconds clear now of Mike Parisi in second place. Dusseldorf with a little look to the inside, but he's not close enough. Lawrence Van Thor's now gone 7 laps down whilst being in the pits, and it looks like they're sort of trying to get the car ready again, but whether they'll be able to or not is a different question, because it's not just the brakes at the back, they've got the bonnet up on the car as well. This, meanwhile, is Wolfgang Reich being closed in by Ollie Jarvis. The battle over 6th position, and now the Mercedes of Stef Dusseldorf is right out behind Abreu. Not close enough to get the move done there.
Well, just 2.5 minutes to go, and again on the exit of turn 4, and just see whether Stef Dusseldorf can again get the Mercedes up the inside as they come up, not through turn 5, but he's going to take a chance. And no, again, good defence.
Yeah.
Very good defence, and really frustrating Stef Dusseldorf. He had planned to try and go down the inside into turn 6. Again, defence going into turn 8, just putting the car on the right part of the road.
So we've got 2 battles going on, one for 5th place and one further back.
This is Jarvis and both going right.
Place, and then we've got the other squabble going on here for 7th place, and Dusseldorf gets the move done, he gets it stopped.
But does he keep the position? The BMW, well, there wasn't a lot of room there, but Stef Dusseldorf just about sneaked it. A little bit of cooperation from the BMW, but the job's done, and now he's ahead of it. It was going to be a bit desperate, but the result is what was required. So the battle with Jarvis, Wolfgang Reich, with just under 1.5 minutes to go.
Yep, we are now onto the penultimate lap of the race, I believe. There is our race leader, Sebastian Loeb, in the pits, watching his teammate, Alvaro Perez, at the wheel. And Sebastian Loeb Racing Team very excited to see them come across the line. If Van Thor, now Van Thor has left the pits, Laurens Van Thor, and he will score points if he takes the checkered flag. He's 7 laps down, but that doesn't matter. If he takes the checkered flag, he will finish in 8th position, which will give him 4 points, which means that it'll be a 5-point gap between these 2 cars, in fact, as we get to the final race of the season in Baku. So it'll be 5 points at the top of the championship if things stay how they are. But we've seen enough drama to know that things might be different. Here we're watching Kaka Bueno trying to put a move on Martin Matska. That's in the battle over 12th position now. And there is Sebastian Loeb starting his final lap. Here comes that battle still with Kaka Bueno. Behind him is Matthias Stumpf, although Stumpf is 8 laps down, so he's just out there to have some fun. Matska trying to finish 6th in class and 12th overall. So the important thing for the championship is that Laurens Van Thor is back out. That's probably why there was no rush to get him back out, because they knew as long as he took the checkered flag at some point, he'd be able to pick up those 4 points. Out of turn 8 they come, and this is still the battle for 12th place. Matska leading the way, Bueno in 2nd place, trying to get past, tries to leave it late on the brakes and go around the outside, needs to be careful because there's a Lamborghini on the inside. And don't forget that they must take that drive-through penalty, I imagine, Laurens Van Thor and the number 11 Audi, otherwise they might be in more trouble. But there's our race leader, Alvaro Perez. There's the team watching on, nerves jangling, I'm sure, because they've led a race pretty much every weekend so far this season. This is their 5th pole position. They've won 3 qualifying races, but haven't been able to even turn it into a podium come the main race. But for the first time, we're going to see Sebastian Loeb win in the FIA GT Series main race here at Navarra. Fantastic performance from McLaren. Across the line they come. Sebastian Loeb Racing win. Delight in the garage. There's Andy Zuber getting some hugs, but they need to be careful because Zuber's car hasn't quite crossed the line. Here it comes now. It's going to be a 1-2 for Sebastian Loeb Racing. Absolute delight as they take the checkered flag. But third place, and now the men with a real shot of taking the championship in Baku, Edvard Sandström and Frank Stippler. There's our Pro-Am winner, Sergei Afanasyev. He and Andreas Simonsen doing a great job. Jarvis across the line in 6th, and he's got past Wolfgang Reip. He's come across the line in 5th, so Jarvis getting past Reip on the last lap, but Reip still getting a 2nd in class, which is great news. It's all kicking off here. This is Stump trying to unlap himself, and because he only wants to be 7 laps down on Martin Matska, he goes for it, but there's no way through. Now surely there's a way through here. Oh, it's going to be tight, and Stump goes through and unlaps himself. You've got to have fun while you're out there, I guess. But there's Sebastian Loeb. It's been a long time coming, but finally, in the penultimate round of the season, his team have fulfilled the promise that they showed in the first qualifying session. There's the headline photo. There's the race-winning car. Kaka Bueno comes across the line. 12th place for him, and 7th place in class. A decent-ish result considering his issues. Stefan Rotel congratulating Sebastian Loeb. I think we're going to see some real satisfaction, especially from Alvaro Parent, because that man has been under an awful lot of pressure this season. He was brought on as the McLaren expert, which he very much is. But they've been involved in incidents all over the place, boost irregularities, all sorts going on with that car throughout the season. But finally, they've got it together. They've got it sorted here at Navarra, and it's going to be a 1-2. I think we're going to hear from some very happy gentlemen in a few moments. Here's the results. Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parent winning the race. 21 seconds clear of their teammates Andy Zuber and Mike Parisi. Third place in the championship. Third place in the race means second place in the championship for Frank Stippler and Edvard Sandström. Pro-Am winners Andreas Simonsen and Sergei Afanasyev. Mayor Melvin Jarvis doing a good job to finish in 5th place ahead of Steve Doherty and Wolfgang Reip. But there, 15th position, the championship leaders, they only pick up 4 points for that. Stefan Ortelli and Laurence Van Thor, their championship advantage has been slashed. Here come the MP412Cs. Rounds of applause as they pull into the pit lane, pull into Parc Fermé. In 1st and 2nd places, the team are legging it down now to come and congratulate their drivers. But out of the car climbs a very relieved Portuguese man called Alvaro Parent. It's congratulated by Mike Parisi. Parisi was the quickest man on track in the opening stages after being on circuit. And there's a little chant for Alvaro by the sounds of it. And he goes to congratulate his friends, really, rather than his team. His team are still making their way down now. And we can now go down to Parc Fermé. John Watson has made his way down there. He's got Alvaro.
Alvaro, you've finally got the monkey off your back. You've won the big one, the 25-point race.
Well, yeah, of course, it's, finally winning the main race after all that's been happening to us, in some meetings. So really glad. It's a good track for our car. We worked a lot here and paid off. We had a great weekend since free practice 1. Did the correct job. We were fast in wet conditions and dry conditions. So really good and happy to be winning this main race.
Well, in the early part of the race, there was a lot of pressure from your teammate Andy Zuber, but Sebastian really was in control all the time.
Yeah, I think so. He was he was in control, even though they had a very similar pace. But it was good, you know. We were competitive. The car was good to drive, and congratulations to everyone, teams and the drivers and McLaren. It was great.
Don't feel a bit lonely out there by yourself in that stint?
No, it's good when it's like that, isn't it? So, no, there was a Ferrari that was quite fast, you know, and keeping me company.
Okay, we're waiting for the boss to come by. He's sort of taking the congratulations of all those around him. So here he comes, not only the winning driver alongside Arab Emirates, but the boss of the team. Finally, we've seen a 1-2 for Sebastian. Sebastian,
yeah.
Tell me, are you happy? Are you pleased today?
Yeah, for sure, I'm pleased. We were not so lucky in some races, but here it was really good. With Alvaro, we won 2 races, and the second car was second on the main race, so that's a great result for the team. I'm really happy for the team because we needed a bit more motivation, and now we have it.
You needed no motivation this afternoon, in spite of your teammate Andy Zuber pushing you hard. I thought at one point he's going to try and take the lead.
Yeah, he was very close. He was pushing very hard, very close behind, so he was very fast, but our car were great today. Great feeling, both in the car, so it was a really good race.
You get the good stuff up. We're coming down to celebrate with you. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll hopefully get down there for some celebrations, John. As we see Navarra Parent chatting to the engineers and mechanics from the Sebastian Loeb racing team. And we can now hear from Frank Stippler and Edward Stanstrom, who have taken a big chunk out of the championship lead that was held by their teammates Ortelli and Vanthor. And Frank Stippler and Edward Stanstrom are right in contention for this FIA GT Series title. Let's hear from them.
Two happiest men in the paddock here right now, Edward Sandstrom, Frank Stippler. You didn't think you were going to come away with only 1 point behind the championship leader. You're only now 1 point behind.
Yeah, that's exciting, right? That's exactly what we needed, and now we can focus on Baku and do a good job there.
There were problems with the brakes at the beginning of the race. What actually was your problem?
I had no brakes at all. The lap we went into the grid, and for that reason I couldn't warm up the tires, and I had huge problems with the tire pressure in the first laps of the race. But it was not as big as the top speed problem we had. I mean, the top speed was ridiculous against all the others, and we knew that it would have been difficult on this track especially, and third place is better than we expected for that reason.
So you're going to go to Baku 1 point and a real big chance.
Yeah, then we have to fight for it, really, and bring it home, hopefully.
Look forward to it. Many thanks. Well done.
So great to hear from Frank Stippler and Edward Sandstrom, finishing in third place, which gives them 15 points, taking them up to 96 points in the championship. It's 101 for Vanthor and Ortelli. Because Vanthor and Ortelli got back out, that means, well, here's a look at the championship standings. Ortelli on 101 points, Sandstrom and Stippler on 96. Because Ortelli and Vanthor got out to take the checker flag, it's not 1 point the difference, it's up to 5 points, but still all to play for going into the final round of the season in late November in Baku in Azerbaijan. Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parent with that win leap up to fourth place in the standings. They might be able to finish in third position, possibly even second if things really go their way when we get to Baku. Alan Day fifth in the standings, Rene Rast sixth. And as far as the Pro Cup team classifications go, it's still on for the battle there. Belgian Audi Club can only count 2 of their cars for the points, so that's why they have 143 points with Sebastian Loeb Racing pretty close behind, only a handful of points in it, which means that again in Baku things could swing in their favour. BMW Team Brazil up into third place in the standings, which I think will please them considerably. And as far as the Pro-Am classification is concerned, Afanasiev and Simonsen this weekend have pulled reasonably clear of Harry Procek now in second place in the standings. It's still not over, but again, going to Baku, it's going to be a long shot now for Harry Procek to challenge Afanasiev and Simonsen for the title. Wolfgang Reip has moved up into 5th position after his strong drive today to 2nd position. And as far as the Pro-Am teams are concerned, it's HTP Gravity Cherouz leading the way with 146 points. Team RJ and Nissan in second place after a strong race, but only picking up in the end second and fifth in class, which I think would have been a little disappointing for them. It's WRT who win the Mechanics Award, and that means that they get a nice bit of cash that gets shared around amongst the mechanics. And so they leave the top of the podium. That goes to the fastest pit stops this weekend, which I presume didn't include the 6-lap pit stop for the number 11 car. I just wonder if they'll get penalised though, because I didn't see them do the drive-through penalty that they were ordered to do once they left the pit lane. So that could still be a spanner in the works a little bit later on. Onto the podium then come Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parent, our race winners. Second place for Mike Parisi and Andreas Zuber, and third position for Frank Slipper and Edward Sandstrom. And those two now have moved themselves, as I say, right into the title fight going into the final round in Baku. And it'll be the French national anthem that's played. So the race win for Loeb and Parent. There are the two McLarens. And there's the whole McLaren team. You see some of the Von Ryan McLaren squad down here as well, celebrating the McLaren success. Here come the trophy presentations. Mariano Otto, Navarra governor. Oh, and this is Michel Liganet, the circuit boss. There we go, managing director here at the Circuit de Navarra. The second place trophy is going the way from Carlos Abella. Moving over to Mike Parisi and Andreas Zuber. And there's the third place trophies being awarded to Edward Sandstrom. And no, the winner's trophy, sorry, Mariano Otto, going to Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parent on the top step. Fantastic to see a big crowd out here gathered up against the fence to watch this podium presentation at the end of a cracking weekend here in Navarra. As the champagne gets ready to be sprayed, the cameraman lets the grid girl take the flak if any comes her way, but it's victory finally for Sebastian Loeb and Alvaro Parent. They're able to spray the champagne on the top step of the podium. They thought they'd be doing it Easter weekend in April at Nogaro after taking pole position, but it wasn't to be. Finally now they have found the top step of the podium after a very, very strong performance from the whole team, really. Sebastian Loeb Racing McLaren doing a fantastic job, but Edward Sandstrom and Frank Stippler are the men that are the big winners from this weekend, moving to within just 5 points of the championship lead now, because Ortelli and Van Thor got out. And how crucial will that be, Ortelli and Van Thor leaving the pits to take the checkered flag and pick up those 4 points right at the end? How crucial will that be come Baku in a couple of months' time? Next up, we'll have the Pro-Am podium. We'll see a very happy Sergei Afanasyev and Andreas Simonsen on the top step, I've no doubt. After what was a thrilling battle in Pro-Am, which really, it's fantastic to see the Pro-Am guys mixing it right at the front of the field, really. A 4th place overall for Afanasyev and Simonsen as they climb onto the top step. Next out, Steve Doherty and Wolfgang Reip. 3rd position for Michael Ammermuller and Cesar Campanico in the end, and we've also got our Gentleman Trophy winners up there as well, Michele Rugolo and Claudio Stanisvich. So this moves Andreas Simonsen and Sergei Afanasyev further ahead at the top of the Pro-Am standings, which is great news for them. means that they will be in the box seats to take the Pro-Am title. Michele Ruglo, you can see there on the podium. Thank you very much for joining us here this weekend for the FIA GT Series round at Navarra. It's the penultimate round of the season. The final round will be at Baku in the end of November. Make sure you join us for that, because the title fight is going down to the wire. From myself, Jack Nichols, John Watson alongside me, everyone here in Navarra, we'll see you in Baku. Thanks for joining us.